Welcome back. Well, today I am joined by Geneva Benza and Susan Morrison, who are both here on behalf of the Garden Club. Well, welcome both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Geneva, we've always had the Garden Club come in to tell us all about their garden fair, which you had last month and said was a great success. But you've got a very special presentation coming up at your meeting on May 25th. But before we talk about that, can you tell me about the Garden Club?
Sure. The Garden Club has monthly meetings on the fourth Wednesday of every month, except for July and August. And we bring in the best speakers we can find. Someone just needs to know more than just a lot about a topic. They need to be a master gardener, an author, a speaker that's really knows not only their stuff, but how to talk about it and present it in an interesting way.
Right. And that's really great. I know we've talked before about some of your speakers, and Susan, who you have this time and is with us, sounds amazing as well. Now, this is going to be on May 25th in Clubhouse 1 at 2 o'clock. Tell me how it's set up.
Well, we will have Susan speaking, and she will have a slide presentation.
Okay.
And then and she will have her books, very important. She will have her books for sale. I can't wait to look at them. I don't think I'm going to go home with only one. And then afterwards, we serve refreshments, and we have a raffle.
Oh, good.
Our members bring in things, garden things, pots, plants, books, things like that. Okay. And everyone gets a little letter when they come in, and then the letters are called at random. So like if 5 people have Z and Z gets called first, they get to go up first. And
that's great. Oh, I love that. That sounds nice. Now, can anybody in the village go to the meeting, or does it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Anybody in the village and their guest.
All right. Awesome.
It's $5 for the non-members. That's all.
That is perfect. And is it about an hour long?
Yes, okay. A little more. The speaker usually talks for 45 minutes and then has questions that takes about an hour. And then we have the raffle and refreshments.
Sounds great. All right, perfect. Well, Susan, I'm sorry we haven't gotten to you quite yet, but I know you have a lot to say. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Well, I am a landscape designer in the Bay Area, in the suburbs of San Francisco, and I've been designing for about 20 years now. I started writing a little ways into my career, so I have a couple of books, both on small space gardening, one on vertical gardening, Garden Up, and the second one, my most recent book, is called The Less is More Garden, Big Ideas for Designing Your Small Yard. I also write for Fine Gardening magazine. Oh, nice. And I'm also a contributor to Sunset, and I test their products, or pardon me, their plants in my garden, and I actually help design their test garden up in Sonoma. And so I enjoy learning about their plants and writing about them. And from a not so much a professional standpoint, but from a personal standpoint, I have been a volunteer master gardener for 18 years.
Wow. Well, what a perfect subject matter, Geneva, because as you know, most of the residents here have small gardens, or I just happened to interview somebody. It was probably last year. She had a vertical garden. So she used pots and things and had plants that hung down. It was really beautiful. But what a smart way to make your space, much more inviting. And so I love that. So it's a perfect subject matter for this group. So what are some things that you suggest? I mean, other than what you just mentioned, the vertical gardening, I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do. What are some of the things that you recommend?
Well, a lot of the things that I'm going to cover in the presentation are things that I recommend. I've been doing variations of this presentation for more than 10 years.
Okay.
And it's still one of my most requested. And I think for the reason that you're talking about, that here in California in particular, more of us garden in small spaces than garden in large ones. And in fact, I have a feeling that the makeup of this presentation, the audience is going to be similar to who I've spoken to before, people who learned to garden and started gardening in large spaces, but now have downsized to smaller ones. And so the things that I cover in this presentation are going to help with that transition. I'm going to talk about ways to make a small space feel bigger, ways to make it get more things into it. Of course, going to talk about plants and share some of my favorite plants that work well in small gardens in Southern California. And then probably the most popular aspect of the presentation is I have several garden makeovers throughout that, because I think everybody loves good before and after.
Yeah.
And they're very much structured to be lessons, not just pretty pictures, so that anyone coming to the presentation can actually see those ideas and see how to translate them into their own gardens.
I love that. And Geneva, and Susan, I'm not sure if you know, but here in Southern California now, there's obviously a drought situation. And so the water is going to be cut back. So for that reason, are you going to talk about drought tolerant plants?
Yeah, I would say probably the biggest trend in the last 15 years that I've seen that is just continuing to gain momentum, again, especially here in California, is trading out our thirsty gardens and our thirsty lawns for low water plants.
Right.
So that's pretty much all that I do at this point. And in fact, one of the makeovers in the presentation actually shows where we took out a lawn and what we did instead.
Ah, that's good. How much does succulents play in your designs?
I have a couple of favorites. Succulents can be a little bit misunderstood in that there's an assumption that they're all desert plants. And so you can plant them out in a full sun garden, and a lot of them really don't like that. But I do work with a lot of very sunny sites, and I would say probably agaves and yuccas are two of my favorite plants to use. They can handle a ton of sun. They look good year round. They require almost no maintenance and almost no water.
Oh, isn't that nice? Wonderful. Well, Geneva, what are some things that you think your attendees will love?
Well, I think they're just going to love ideas. They're going everyone in Laguna Woods has either a patio, a balcony, or some area in the front of their garden, or both. Some of us even have atriums where we can garden. And they're all small spaces.
Right.
And the inspiration they're going to be able to get for what to do to make this place inviting. In fact, I snuck some YouTube things I found on Susan, and she talks about what do you want to do in your patio or your garden.
Yeah.
And to me, that was key. My sister was saying, oh, you need a table. We need to eat out there. And I'm more of the, oh, well, a glass of wine with friends kind of person. And let's get the wildlife in there. So all of that kind of stuff is so helpful.
I love that because, we see a lot of butterfly garden type things. And I think that would be really fun to be able to, like you said, attract some of the wildlife, dragonflies, or because they're so beautiful and colorful. That would be great. Are you going to talk about stuff like that?
Well, I definitely am going to include plants that are appropriate for pollinator gardens. And I think that especially speaks, Geneva, to what you were saying, and that you have a lot of people who have balconies or small spaces like that. And what they might not know is that they are actually part of the urban wildlife corridor. And that even something as simple as having pots on your container actually helps with insects as they migrate, because it gives them a place to stop. So it's a nice reminder that even though we might have small gardens, we're all still really part of a bigger picture.
Awesome. Well, it sounds really great. Let's recap again when that is, Geneva. It's going to be May 25th in Clubhouse 1, and it's going to be at 2:00. Now, will they need to call ahead for reservations, or how does that work?
No, they just show up.
Okay. Excellent. Excellent. Now, they don't need to bring anything with them though, right? It's just a presentation. They're not doing any hands-on stuff.
That's correct. We ask that if they have extra cuttings and things like that from their garden that they'd like to share, that they bring that.
Okay. Sounds great. Well, thank you both very much. It was nice to meet you, Susan, and we look forward to having you in the village.
Sounds great. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Geneva.
Thank you.
And we'll be right back after this.